Yeah, so in the U.S. REIT sector, you have a lot of different subsectors with all sorts of different exposures. So definitely in the office sector, I think that's probably where you're going to see the most impact, mostly because that's where values are declining, where occupancies are under pressure, as there's certainly more work from home in the United States or North America in general than a lot of other markets. So that's where I think the risk is. But I think I mean, frankly, office REITs are becoming a shrinking part of the index of U.S. real estate. We still like a lot of the more defensive growth subsectors like senior housing, data centers, the logistics REITs. I still think there's good opportunity there. But in terms of what we're seeing from the banks and kind of fallout from there, I mean, we've seen tighter lending standards in the last 6 months or so. They haven't pushed out their credit spreads quite yet, but they have been more limited in which companies, at least among the US REITs, they're willing to lend to. So not as much to offices, but if you're multifamily, if you're self-storage, if you're industrial, you still have been able to get a loan.
All right, so John, I hear you on the office buildings and on commercial real estate. The spaces that you like, senior housing, data centers, et cetera, where there are REITs for those, what kinds of divs are they throwing off right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the dividend yields today are in those sectors are probably anywhere from kind of 4 to 5 or 6% in this environment. I mean, dividend yields have certainly come up. I think what's interesting is we often look at the spread between the dividend yield and the 10-year Treasury or triple B bond yields, and those have increased faster than REIT dividend yields. So it does imply, to a small degree, maybe 10 to 20% that REITs are overvalued. However, I would note that REITs tend to be an inflation hedge. The average dividend in the U.S. REIT sector actually increased about 8% last year, and so. Yeah, so I don't think it's fair to quite look at dividend yields directly relative to bond yields because REIT dividend yields do grow. So I do think that's an important factor to remember. And another thing that kind of comes back to some of these more defensive growth sectors. You've got larger companies like Prologis in the logistics REIT sector and Ventas in senior housing, where you can get decent dividend yields and good growth behind them and nice earnings growth stories.